Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cone back here again today with another video. Still away from home, so I'm still in this hotel setup. Once again, hope it's okay. But today's video, we're going to talk about the Dallas Mavericks. They got eliminated a while ago in the NBA playoffs, and I've been meaning to make a video talking about them. But honestly, so much has just been going on that I kind of decided to wait a little bit so that all the stories could come out between the Dallas Mavericks losing their longtime general manager and now hiring a Nike executive to take over basketball operations. They also had rumors that Luka Doncic was unhappy with a lot of directions the team was taking. Kristaps Porzingis trade rumors. Jason Kidd now being hired as their head coach. There is a lot going on in Dallas at the moment, and so I thought I would wait to make this video until things kind of calm down, and now it feels like they've kind of calmed down, at least for the time being. Obviously, there's been no Kristaps Porzingis trade, and that's one of the biggest things that the Mavericks need to look at going into this offseason. This year, Luka Doncic went crazy, as he did last year as well against the Clippers. This year again, facing the Los Angeles Clippers, Luka terrorized them once again, putting up an all-time playoff series, especially for someone of such a young age. Luka's already a guy who I see being a top 10 player potentially of all time. When everything is said and done, that's how good he already is, but he needs help. Kristaps Porzingis is supposed to be the second star next to Luka Doncic, and he just has not been good enough. I think it was Mark Cuban actually a couple days ago actually said that he knows that Luka needs a secondary guy. He said no one wants to get Luka more help than I do, and I understand that completely because Luka Doncic, like I said, is a generational talent. Mark Cuban needs to get him some help and get him some help quickly because most of the time with young stars, they'll sometimes struggle to make the playoffs at first, and so they're not too worried about winning immediately. But when you have a player as good as Luka Doncic, who has already, in just his first 3 seasons, made the playoffs twice and finished in like the top 5-ish in MVP voting in that third season, he already wants a championship. And he's a guy that at this point, right now, despite being so young, I think could be the best player on a championship team and is a borderline top 5 player in the NBA. They need to make him as happy as possible, and whether that means hiring the coach that he wants, I don't know if he wanted Jason Kidd. We haven't heard much about that, but I'll talk about Kidd as a coach in a second. But you definitely need to put talent around him. And when we look at the talent that they have on this roster, there are some good players on here. Tim Hardaway Jr. was amazing for the Mavericks in this series against the Clippers that they ultimately lost in 7 games. They had 2 chances in Game 6 and Game 7 to close it out, but the Clippers were the better team. They're now in the Western Conference Finals, and the Mavericks are probably kicking themselves and thinking, if we had just a little bit more, we could have taken that series, and that could be us right now playing the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals, who didn't have Chris Paul for the first 2 games. So who knows where the Mavericks could be at now if they just managed to squeak out a couple more shots in those games. So the Mavericks, I fully expect this offseason to go into overdrive mode to make this team a contender for the foreseeable future. Tim Hardaway Jr., like I said, was amazing in that series. He's a guy that I think they're going to look to bring back, but he is probably going to demand a good bit of money. He was making $18.9 million, and now going into unrestricted free agency, they're going to have to pay him probably around that, if not even a little bit more, to retain him on this roster. That's how good he was. Teams, I guarantee, are going to be trying to throw money at him. But the thing is, with the Mavericks, I think he likes it there, and it seemed like he was happy with his role. He was happy being the guy next to Luka, so I expect him to ultimately come back, even if the Mavericks have to pay a little bit more for him. So that's a good piece that they'll secure, but that is going to hinder them contractually. They won't have a lot of money to go out and get other guys. JJ Redick, who really never even played for the Mavericks very much, despite trading for him around the trade deadline. $13 million going off of the books. I don't think he's going to be back. I think he ends up going to somewhere because he never wanted to go to Dallas in the first place. I think he ends up going to like a Brooklyn or something like that. Maybe just as a bench piece, as a spot up shooter. I think that's the role for him for the rest of his career because he is 37 years old. So his shooting still going to be valuable, but I don't expect him to be back on this roster. Josh Richardson has an option, and I guarantee you he's going to accept that because with the way he played this past season, he's not going to get around $11 million from any other team. Maybe he declines it to look at maybe a more long-term option, but I fully expect him to hang around for that player option, so that's 11 more on the books. Dwight Powell, solid player, $11 million, not a bad contract for him at all. Maxi Kleber, $8.75 million. And the biggest steal in perhaps the entire NBA is Luka Doncic right now at $10 million for next season. He's still in his rookie contract, but next year is the last year of his rookie contract. Luka is due for a supermax extension this offseason, and he's going to get it. He's 100% going to sign that as an all-NBA first teamer. He's going to make north of $200 million in his next contract. He's not going anywhere. Despite the rumors that he's unhappy, that he had a lot of issues with things that the Mavericks front office has done, he's not going to go absolutely anywhere because he's not going to turn down all that money. So that extension won't kick in until not this coming season, but the season after. So the Mavericks right now have a short window where Luka's only making $10 million and they can add a lot more to the books if they're able to get off some money. Whether that means having to let Tim Hardaway Jr. walk, which is a potential option, or getting off the Kristaps Porzingis money. That is probably the biggest thing for them right now. They might be able to trade him for someone around the same amount of money, but the Mavericks should really look at options to trade him and either trade him for someone that could help this team out more, because if you're going to pay someone that much money, they need to do more than Kristaps was doing, or bring in someone with less money so that you can maximize the potential you have right now while Luka isn't getting paid $40 million a year. Because those big contracts, while Luka is very deserving of it, they really hinder the ability of a general manager to build a team. When Luka's making $40 million, and if they still have Kristaps on the books and he's making $31 million, that's like 70% of their cap right there. Not to mention that you have Dwight Powell making $11 million for the next couple seasons, Maxi Kleber, who is a good player and is worth about the $8.7 million that he's going to make next year. You'll have him on the books, and if you bring back a Tim Hardaway Jr. quickly, you're out of cap space. Not to mention that a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith he's only making $4 million next season, but if he plays the way he did this past season, in next season, he's going to demand a lot more money because he had a great year. He's a great 3-and-D player, and I'm sure plenty of teams are going to line up for his services. So this Mavericks team is in a really unique situation right now where they have a borderline top 5 guy still in his rookie contract. They need to maximize the talent around him, and they need to do it quick. This is their chance right now. They theoretically have the ability to sign someone to maybe a max deal or around a max deal this offseason. So what I think this team needs to do going forward in terms of player personnel is they need to trade Kristaps Porzingis first of all. Kristaps, I think, does still have value in this league. He is 7'3". When he is healthy and when he is playing up to the level that we've seen him play in the past, a lot of people forget he was an all-star just a couple seasons ago. And I think if he finds some more consistency and he's able to stay healthy, I think he still can be a good, maybe even all-star level player in the league, but he needs to find that consistency, and I think he's just kind of run out of time in Dallas. Sometimes there are those situations where even though you have good players, Kristaps and Luka could be best friends for all I know. I really don't know. But sometimes players just run their course on a team. I think he just needs a change of scenery at this point, and I think the Mavericks would be happy to give him that change of scenery if they bring in a player that helps this team. What players are that? I'm not really sure. Maybe it's something like a Kemba Walker from the Oklahoma City Thunder. As a Thunder fan, this is a trade I've seen 100 times over and over, where Al Horford goes to the Celtics, Kemba goes to the Mavericks, and Kristaps goes to the Thunder. He fits the Thunder's timeline a little bit more. Might be a little more accelerated, but if he's able to return to all-star form, then the Thunder could get a steal for a guy in Kemba Walker who isn't in their plans anyways and is already on the wrong side of 30 for a rebuilding team. If Kristaps is able to come in and be the guy that he was in the past next to Shea, giving Shea some spacing, which the Thunder had absolutely none of this past season, if he's able to hone his defense up a little bit and be that center next to maybe a Pokuševski who's also 7 feet in that front court, that quickly becomes one of the toughest defenses to face up against in terms of length and in terms of the ability to disrupt shots, get the ball away from the rim, whatever you want to do. So that's a potential move. Now, the Mavericks would do that because one of the biggest issues with this team right now, and even if they don't make like a Kemba Walker trade or a trade for any other point guard, they need to get Luka another ball handler. One of the biggest problems for this Mavericks team was the inability to create offense and specifically to distribute the ball when Luka wasn't on the court. When Luka's not on the court, it's a lot of iso ball. It's a lot of guys just trying to go isolation, create their own shots, and occasionally hit the cutter, maybe a couple pick and rolls. But Luka is such a good passer that there is nobody anywhere close to him on this roster. And I'm not saying they need to get like a generational type playmaker, an elite playmaker next to Luka, because Luka can already do that. But if Luka's playing around 35, 36 minutes a game, for those other 12 minutes, you need someone on the court that can distribute the ball, at least in a similar fashion to the way that he can, in terms of getting the ball to open shooters, because this team has a lot of shooters, has a lot of good 3-and-D guys, and has a lot of guys who can catch and shoot the ball. The problem is there's not a lot of people to initiate the offense outside of Luka. Jalen Brunson is a good player, and he's a guy that's going to secure a bag very, very soon. That's another guy they're going to have to think about bringing back because he has a contract going to next season, but it's unguaranteed, and he's probably going to demand some money. He is a good backup point guard. Now, the question is, do you want him to be your backup point guard, or do you want to go out and get someone who's a better distributor? Maybe you even try and pair someone next to Luka in that backcourt that is a better distributor and move maybe like a Tim Hardaway Jr. to the 3 spot, or you let him walk. There are different options. But they have to get another primary ball handler. You can't have another season where it's all Luka. When Luka's not on the court, there is no offense on this Mavericks team, and that forced Luka to play a lot of minutes against the Clippers, and he couldn't take a breather, and that resulted in him a lot of times struggling in fourth quarters because he was gassed by the end of the game for running the entire offense. Maybe Kemba Walker, he's not a great playmaker, but he can create offense for both himself and others. Maybe that's an option they consider. Outside of that, if they don't want to trade Kristaps for that point guard, you could go out and get a free agent one. Maybe you throw Lonzo Ball some money, who is a great playmaker, so maybe you try and do something like that. There's some other free agent point guards that they could take a look at, but ultimately, I think they should go younger. Either younger or deal Kristaps for a more established veteran. I don't think they should sign a veteran free agent point guard. That could be a move, but I don't really see it working out. So those are the options for them. In terms of Kristaps trades, there's a million trades they could make. Who knows? Maybe they would want to trade him for Ben Simmons or something like that. 2 players that NBA Twitter and the NBA community seem to hate as a whole. Who knows? Maybe a trade like that happens, something crazy. But ultimately, I think Kristaps has run his course, and I think he does get moved this offseason. I'm not sure for who. There are a lot of different options they could go. That's just one I wanted to present to you guys as a Thunder fan, and one that I've seen talked about a lot. So, outside of player personnel, those are the things they need. They need a primary ball handler next to Luka Doncic. Continue to add shooters. This team needs shooters, and shooters fit Luka really well. Add some defensive-minded guys, because a lot of times they got cooked. Maybe some kind of like rim protector for the Dallas Mavericks. Kristaps, not that rim protector. Maxi Kleber, who they started at center sometimes, not a rim protector. Dwight Powell, not a rim protector. You're seeing a running theme here. They don't really have anyone to guard down low, and the Clippers abuse that a lot of times, so they need to think about that as well. That's what they need. But outside of that, we can look at all the other front office stuff that's been going on. They don't have a general manager at the moment. They're about to finalize the deal, I believe. I'm not sure if it is fully finalized, but with a Nike head executive, I don't remember his name off the top of my head. I'll get to know it because I'm sure I'm going to hear it a million times, but I don't mind that hire. I think that's fine. They know more than I do in terms of a front office search. I know nothing about the guy, and I'm sure a Nike head executive has a lot of player connections, which is something I think you really need as a head of president basketball or as a president of basketball operations. I don't know what I was saying there. It's good to have those player connections. You can get more guys willing to come into this team. Although I'm sure guys already are dying to play with Luka Doncic. You want to play next to the next generational star. That's Luka. Guys want to go play with LeBron. Guys want to go play with good teams that have bright futures. That's the Mavericks. So I don't think they're going to have any problem, but doesn't hurt to bring in that guy. And then probably one of the biggest moves is the loss of Rick Carlisle, who has now gone to the Pacers. So I'll probably talk about that in some future video whenever I talk about the Indiana Pacers some point, if they make some moves in free agency maybe. But they brought in Jason Kidd. And for reasons outside of basketball, I think that's a bad hire. I don't think he's a very good person from the things that I've heard. And I really don't think he should have been given another chance as a head coach. And just from the basketball side of things, it doesn't make sense to me. Jason Kidd has had an opportunity. He's had multiple opportunities, and he's never impressed at all as a head coach. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe Luka Doncic is the guy that is going to come in, and him and Jason Kidd are going to work great together. Jason Kidd knows the Mavericks organization. He's going to bring in some guys I'm sure that he played with on the Mavericks, and they're going to help him out. I think there was some talk of like JJ Barea maybe coming in as like a consultant type role, or like an assistant coach, maybe even Jason Terry coming in as like an assistant coach or something. So I'm sure there will be some familial ties there, but I'm just worried they're doing it out of just pure loyalty reasons, bringing in Jason Kidd, a guy who played for the Mavericks for many years. I don't know. I don't like the hire. I really don't. I think it was a bad decision. I could be completely wrong. Like I said, I am just someone who sees basketball from the outside. Jason Kidd knows more basketball than I do. He is a Hall of Famer, a all-time point guard, and an NBA head coach now for the 3rd time. So he knows basketball more than I do, but as just an observer, I don't like it. I think he really underperformed with the Bucks. The second he left the Bucks, and they brought in literally anyone else other than him, bringing in Mike Budenholzer eventually, the Bucks became so much better. when Jason Kidd was gone. With the Brooklyn Nets, he never really did anything. Maybe he did a good job with the Lakers as an assistant. I don't really know. I know Frank Vogel did a pretty good job, obviously winning a championship last season. Jason Kidd being a part of that, who knows? Maybe he really is a better coach than I give him credit for, but I don't like the hire. I'm not going to talk about too much more. If you've seen my Twitter, you know I'm not a fan of the hire at all. I really would have liked to see them bring in a new face, maybe like a David Vanterpool, who I've seen a lot of times. There was another assistant coach on the Mavericks. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I thought he was also a great candidate that a lot of players liked. He was familiar, and I think he would have been a good candidate for them as well. Like a Becky Hammond could have also been a great option. I just think there are better options out there. I think right now is a good time with Luka Doncic, a young up-and-coming star, to bring in a brand new face to this team to show the league what they're made of. But, you know, I'm not the front office for the Dallas Mavericks. Yeah, so that's pretty much everything going on with the Mavericks right now. I think they are set up to win a championship sooner than later. Obviously, having Luka Doncic, I think, makes you a playoff team. I'm sure as he continues to get better, because he's only 22, pretty soon it's going to be, if you have Luka, you are a contender. And for the Mavericks, that means contending for the next 5, 6, 7, however many years, if he decides to stay here for the rest of his career. The Mavericks just have to do a better job of putting talent around him. And if Jason Kidd isn't the answer at coach, which for their sake, they better hope he is, because they just signed him to a 4-year deal. But if he isn't the answer at head coach, they need to not show hesitation in firing him, because the last thing you want to do is piss Luka off. If they lose a generational talent, things are going to go south very quickly. So let's see if they do it or not. Appreciate you guys watching this video. I'll see you guys later. Let me know all your thoughts about that in the comment section below. I'll see you guys later. Real one, say it back.